take things to an entirely different level. And so here's what I want to talk to. I want to talk to specifically tonight to the individual that is ready to expand their life. I'm talking about somebody who is wanting to expand their income, someone who's wanting to expand their vision, someone who's wanting to expand their experiences for this new year, and someone who is wanting to expand their life in a major way going into this year. And so if you're a person that you've been looking at your life right now, and not to say that you haven't had some great accomplishments, not to say that you haven't had some good achievements, but you know that there is another level for you in your life. In other words, you know that you have the capacity to expand, that you have the capacity to expand your business, to expand your influence, to expand your impact, to expand your reach. I am talking specifically to you. And so I want to provide you with what I believe are a couple of key steps that are required so that you can make sure that this year is an expansive year for you. In other words, you want to make sure that this year is not just a repeat of last year or the year before that. You see, all too often as we get into a new year, there are many people who are just going to go through the same old motion. And they're going to go through this entire year. And this year is going to look a whole lot like the previous 5 years of their lives. In other words, there's not going to be any significant growth. Anything significant is going to take place in their life. And what's going to happen is that their life is going to continue at a really even, steady rate. And what I'm saying is at some point, you have to make the conscious decision that this is my year for expansion. And so I've decided for me and for my family that this is the year of expansion. And I am hoping that you are going to join me in that conversation. I hope that you're going to join me in that thought process. My mantra for this year is that this is the year of expansion. And so as I make my decisions throughout the year, as I encounter the different things and opportunities that approach me, I'm always going to be thinking about, is this going to allow me to expand? Is this positioning me to expand, or is this restricting me? Is this keeping me within my comfort zone? So if you are hoping to expand this year, if you want to expand your income, your vision, your finances, your relationships, your experiences, your goals, and your dreams, if this is something that you desire for your life, there's a couple of key things that you need to know. And if you're a note taker, the first thing that I want you to realize is when you want to expand your life, one of the first things that you have to realize is you need to make sure that you make room for expansion. So write that down. I literally just sent the email out about this not too long ago to my email list, and I'm going to expound on that tonight. But one of the first things that you want to do, if you want to expand your life, one of the things that is required is you have to make room for expansion. Well, Andy, what do you mean by that? Well, let me help you to sort of create a visual here. You know, if you were to take any one of the rooms in your home, let's say you go into the master bedroom in your home, and let's say that you decided to change out the flooring. I don't know what you have in your master bedroom. Let's say perhaps you have tile floors in your master bedroom. Let's say that you have carpet in your master bedroom. For those of you who have wood floors, this is going to be a perfect analogy. And for those of you who watch them actually install your wood floors, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But let's take, for instance, your master bedroom. Let's say you are going to have a professional carpenter install some wood floors in your master bedroom. What you will notice is as they begin to lay down the wood floors in your master bedroom, all around the perimeter where the wood floors are going to actually touch the walls of your bedroom, what they do is they leave a gap. The name of that gap is called an expansion gap. And the reason why they do that is because they understand that when they lay down those wood floors, ultimately, guess what? Those wood floors that they lay down are going to eventually be exposed to the environment. And in the environment is going to be some moisture. And as a result of the moisture, the wood floors that are laid down in your bedroom will have to expand. And knowing that those wood floors are going to need to expand, they anticipate the expansion. And so what they do is they actually make room for those wood floors to expand. And they leave what is called expansion gaps all around those wood floors, specifically where those wood floors are about to touch the walls. And so what I need you to understand is this: if you want your life to expand, if you want your finances to expand, if you want your business to expand, what it means is that you're going to have to take the conscious effort of actually creating room so that your life, your business, your goals, and your dreams can actually expand. In other words, you're going to have to create really some proverbial expansion gaps in your life. Let me paint another visual for you. It has been shown, there's a group of biologists, and here's what they did. They took 65 different plant species, and they put those 65 different plant species that were in a regular sized pot, and they decided to take those particular plants, uproot them, and put them into a larger pot. And what they found is the moment that they took those plants out of the smaller pot and put them in a larger pot, what they found is that every single one of those plants grew by 40%. Now, why is that? The reason why those plants grew by 40% is because they were in a larger pot. In other words, there was more room in order for their roots to grow. There was more room for the process of photosynthesis to take place. There was more room for the plant to be able to gather actual nutrients from the soil, which resulted in the plant growing. And so the plant grows in accordance to the size of the pot. And what I need you to understand is this: your life will grow in accordance to the space in which you make for your life. And so a lot of times when we think of the term expansion, we normally think of adding on. But what I need you to understand is if this is your year of expansion, what it may mean is that you may have to look around at your life. You may have to look at your finances. You may have to look at your business. You may have to look at your relationships. You may even have to go through your contact list in your phone and actually decide to make room so that your life can expand. So what does that look like? What it means is that maybe perhaps there are some people in your life that is occupying the space in your life that unfortunately you cannot even take the time to develop new relationships that are going to challenge you, relationships that are going to help you to grow, because you have other people in your life, toxic people, negative people, that are occupying that space. In other words, what it also means is that maybe perhaps for you as a business owner, that there are some activities that you are doing that is occupying space that is not necessarily contributing to the bottom line. That's not necessarily helping you to grow your business. That's not necessarily helping you to have more impact. And so what it means is that you may have to remove some of those key activities that are not necessarily producing the results that you want so that you can make room for different activities, high producing, income producing, impact producing type activities in your life. And so what I need you to understand is that this is the time that you've got to do some house cleaning. In other words, you have to make room so that ultimately growth can actually take place. And I'm telling you, this is not always a very easy process. I think about when I wanted to make the transition to become a full-time speaker and a coach. At that particular time, I was already heavily investing in real estate, and I had a successful real estate business that was generating six figures for me. But what happened is, as I continued to grow my real estate business and also grow my speaking business, what happened is my speaking business was restricted. My speaking business could not grow to the way that I wanted to grow. Why was that? Because much of the time that I should have been dedicating to growing my business, right, to finding speaking engagements, to fine-tuning my skills, to actually developing coaching programs and so forth, I was also dedicating to buying homes, fixing homes, and flipping homes. And so one of the hardest decisions that I had to make was to make room for my speaking business to grow. I had to walk away from many of the key activities that I was doing in my real estate business. And let me just tell you, it's not easy to walk away from something that you're familiar with. It's not easy to walk away from something that is generating great income for you. But I knew that the only way that I would be able to expand my speaking business, the only way that I would be able to expand and really be able to figure out my true purpose and my calling was that ultimately that I was going to have to make room for it. And making room for it meant that I was going to have to walk away from something else. And what I need you to understand is if this is going to be your year of expansion, what it may mean is that you may have to walk away from some things and some people that are occupying your space. things and people that are occupying your space that are limiting you in your thought process, that are limiting you in your goals, that are limiting the outcomes that you have the capacity to actually produce. And so part of expansion is actually taking the time to make room. And so when we think about the carpenter who's laying down those wood floors in the room, they leave those expansion gaps because they're expecting that ultimately that those floors are going to expand. When we think about plants, you have to put them in a larger pot if you want them to grow even better. If you think about something as simple as popping popcorn, most of the time, if you grab a bag of popcorn, before you stick it in the microwave, we're talking about instant popcorn, you'll notice that the bag is significantly larger than the kernels that are actually inside of the bag. Now, why is the bag so much bigger than the kernels that are inside the bag? Well, the reason why the bag is so much bigger, because there's an expectation that once you put those kernels in the microwave, that ultimately once that little bit of moisture in the kernel actually feels the heat, that guess what's going to happen? It is going to expand. And when you have something is about to expand, there must be room for it to expand. And the same principle applies to your life. And so if you want this to be a year of expansion, what I want to challenge you to do is to start looking in your life and looking at the different areas in your life and start trying to figure out where can you make room for expansion. I'll never forget this. My good friend Star Babatoon told me this story one time about one of her friends who had been single for a very long time. And she was wanting to ultimately be able to find the love of her life and ultimately be able to find herself a husband. And she said that her friend decided to take a bold step. And her friend at the time had her own apartment in her own space. And for years, she had always been living on her own. And so one year she decided to go ahead and set a new resolution. And she said, you know what? I am going to act as if I have a husband that is about to come into my life. And if I had a husband coming into my life, and if we were going to occupy the same space, if I were going to have to share this apartment with my husband, I would have to make room for him. And so she actually went into her closet and she cleared out a whole section in her closet. And she said, this is going to be the area where my husband is going to hang up his clothes. And she actually went into the guest bedroom and she said, you know what? I've got to clear some space in here so that my husband has room to put some of his things. And then she went into the living room and she said, you know what? I've got to make some room here so that my husband can put some of his decor and some of the things that he wants up. And Star Babatoon was telling me the story, and I was so fascinated because guess what happened? That same year, her friend was able to find a dream and the man of her life, and ultimately she married that guy in that space that she had created in her closet. That was the very space that he would go into and start hanging up his clothes. And so that's a very powerful visual of what happens when we take the time to actually make room in our lives. And so what I'm trying to make you understand is this: that is not always going to be easy. Sometimes that is going to be a little painful. It's a little painful to delete some people from your telephone, some people that may perhaps they didn't do anything specifically to you, but they may just be people that, guess what, they're just occupying space in your life. In other words, when you get on the phone with them, all you're doing is gossiping. All you're doing is having negative conversations. And unfortunately, every time you have a conversation with them, it's restricting. It's not helping you to go to the next level. It's not on a positive beat. And those are people that you should not be talking to on a consistent basis. What it may also mean is that maybe perhaps some poor habits that you have, some things that you continue to do, like watching a significant amount of television and watching all these ridiculous shows over and over again, doesn't mean that you can't have a little recreation. Listen, I watch a couple of shows here now and then as well. But what I'm saying is, if you notice that you have downtime activities that are constantly occupying your space, that is often going to be the reason why you can't ever elevate your life and the reason why you can't expand. And so what it means is that you got to do some house cleaning. You got to remove those things. So that's one of the first things that I need you to understand, that if you want to expand your life for this year, the first thing that you have to do is you have to make room for expansion. The second thing that I need you to understand is that if you intend to expand your life this year, what it means is that you are going to have to be willing to act in spite of those moments that you're feeling very fearful. And let me help you to understand why. Because fear is one of those restrictive type emotions. And what I mean by that is when fear begins to surface, what fear does is fear, instead of expanding your life, fear has the ability to restrict your life. You see, fear will keep you from writing the book. Fear will keep you from going after that new client. Fear will keep you from deciding to actually go after and get your master's. Fear will keep you from actually putting a bid on that big actual proposal. Fear will keep you from getting out there and trying to meet new people and perhaps getting into a new relationship. Fear is very restrictive. And so once you make the decision that you want to expand in your life, what it means is as you go through this year and fear begins to surface, when you're thinking about moving forward, when you're thinking about starting something new, when you're thinking about starting the business, when you're thinking about starting a new segment in your business, when you're thinking about going back and maybe perhaps getting another degree, when you're thinking about making that career shift, when you're thinking about getting back out there and dating again, when you're thinking about doing something that may perhaps you don't normally do, fear will surface. And in that moment, you have to be willing to do what Joyce Meyer said, and that is you have to be willing to do it afraid. In other words, you have to be willing to feel the fear and do it anyway. In other words, you have to be willing to face the fear, and in the midst of the fear, still be willing to take some level of action. I'm not going to lie to you. Let me tell you something. I can tell you that every time I've had a significant breakthrough in my life, typically in that moment of a potential breakthrough, that there was some fear that I had to face in that moment. And I had to move forward in spite of the fear. And I think about it, and I bring this up all the time, and it's just one of those things that I have to because that was a defining moment in my life. I think about when I made the transition and I left my job in corporate America. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I wasn't afraid. You see, I was afraid. Why? Because I spent all this time learning and getting my undergraduate degree, my master's degree in accounting, right? And I could tell you another thing. I had gotten very comfortable and used to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so when I thought about taking a chance on myself and becoming an entrepreneur and walking away from my career, knowing that people around me would be looking at me like I was crazy and saying, Andy, what are you thinking? I had to experience that fear that was popping up, right? That fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure. I had to face all those things. But even in the midst of facing all those things, guess what? I still had to go ahead and turn in my letter of resignation. I still had to step out there and start working on myself and going to personal development seminars and workshops so I could learn some new skill sets to give me enough encouragement and enough willpower and enough confidence to be able to walk away from my career and my job. And I'm telling you, when I think about even making the decision to start speaking, and even the first couple of times that I had opportunities to get in front of larger audiences, that was a pretty scary opportunity. But let me tell you something, even though I was afraid, the only way that growth was going to happen, the only way that I was going to expand was that even if I experienced the fear, that I had to move forward and act anyway. And so what I want to remind you is that if you're making the commitment to expand this year, if you're making the commitment to expand in every area in your life, what you have to understand is you're also making the commitment. If you're saying you're making the commitment to expand, you also are making the commitment to move forward in spite of the fear. So understand that the fear will surface. Fear will begin to appear. Don't let anybody fool you. Don't let anybody tell you any blow smoke in your face and so forth and tell you, oh yeah, you know, it's mind over matter and you can just make fear totally go away. Listen, that's a bunch of baloney. Fear is always going to surface. Fear is going to show up in so many different ways. Sometimes it's going to show up as little self-talk. Sometimes it's going to show up with you just trying to find ways to sort of self-sabotage yourself. Sometimes it's going to show up as you trying to make excuses as to why you should not move forward. All of those things are all nice ways to disguise fear. And when those things show up, you have to make the decision within yourself to say, wait a second, I've made a decision that this is my year to expand. I've made the decision that this is my time. I've made the decision I'm going to expand my relationships. I'm going to expand my paycheck. I'm going to expand my income. I'm going to expand my business. I'm going to expand my vision. I'm going to expand my goals. And when you make that decision, what it also means is that inherently in that decision what you're saying is that I'm willing to face my fears. I'm willing to move forward in spite of fears. I'm willing to take the first step, even at those moments that I'm not quite sure how things are going to turn out. Even at those moments when I'm experiencing the fear of failure, because I believe that perhaps this thing may not work out, or the fear of success, because what if it does work out? Will I be able to handle it? Or the fear of judgment. What is this person going to think? What is that person going to think? And so even when all those different types of fears begin to surface, what you are saying when you make the decision that you're going to expand is that you're willing to move forward in spite of the fear. And thirdly, the last thing that I need you to understand is that once you make the decision that you're willing to expand, what it means is that you're going to have to stretch. Do you hear me? It means that you're going to have to stretch. It means that I want you to stick your hand out as far as you can. And what it means is that as far as you can stick your hand out, when you're saying that it's time for you to expand, you need to go ahead and think beyond your reach. In other words, beyond your current contact list, beyond your current income level, beyond your current level of thinking, beyond your current network, beyond your current inner circle. When you make the decision that you want to expand, what it means is that you're making a decision that you are going to stretch beyond all of those limits that you've already set for yourself. And what it means is that you're going to have to ultimately do what? Step entirely outside of your comfort zone. You know, somebody once said that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Somebody also said that your life is in direct proportion to your comfort level. And so if you want a bigger life, what it means is that you have to expand your comfort zone. And so if you want to have a small life, then what it means is that you remain within your comfort zone. And so for all of us, and that includes myself, as we go through this year, listen, you're probably going to start off doing a lot of things that are routine. Sure, you're trying to break through. You're trying to make new adjustments, develop new skills, new habits, and new stuff. But the majority of what you're doing, guess what? It's probably going to be in your comfort zone. And you have to recognize that. You have to recognize that. You got to tell yourself, wait a second, I got to shake it up here. And when things begin to show up and opportunities begin to show up that are outside of your comfort zone, you have to tackle those things before that inner conversation starts settling in and it starts telling you, no, don't do that. And you start coming up with really fancy excuses as to why you shouldn't stretch and go beyond those limitations that you've already set for yourself. And so this is your time right now to start stretching out. I'm talking about to go beyond your reach. I'm talking about going places that perhaps you don't normally go. I'm talking about setting new expectations, setting new requirements, setting new goals for yourself beyond and bigger than any type of expectations and any type of dreams that you've ever had for yourself. I'm talking about the type of expectations, the type of dreams that intimidate you, and that as you look at them, you say to yourself, I don't even know how I'm going to do that. And one of my mentors told me a long time ago, Andy, how is none of your business. And so the only thing that you have to be willing to do is you've got to be willing to have expansive thoughts, that you need to start developing expansive relationships, that you need to start creating expansive goals, that you need to expand and stretch beyond what's comfortable for you. And so I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be your year of expansion. But I do understand that even if you say that this is your year of expansion, that just simply having a mantra is not enough. What is also going to require of you is that a couple of key things. Number one is that you've got to make room for the expansion. Don't forget that everything that you want to expand in your life, you actually have to make room for it to expand. And so that doesn't change, and that doesn't change when it comes to your life, when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your experiences, when it comes to your spirituality, that you have to make room in your life for those areas of your life to begin to expand. What it also means, and I need you to understand this, is that when fear begins to surface, and remember, fear is restrictive, that you've got to be willing to experience the fear, as Joyce Meyer would say, and do it afraid, to take action in spite of the fear, to look fear dead in the face and go ahead and move forward anyway. And ultimately, it's going to require that you stretch. In other words, you've got to go beyond your comfort zone. You have to reach beyond what you've normally been able to grasp. You have to reach beyond the limitations that you've set for yourself, and you have to stretch to hopefully make some amazing things happen. And so I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to make this an explosive, expansive, and make this your year of expansion. But remember that those things are going to require specific action steps from you. And hopefully I've equipped you with 3 things that you need to consider and 3 things that you need to do to make sure that this is, in fact, a very expansive year and that this is your year of expansion. And let me just tell you, I am so super excited that you decided to tune in and join me on the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. And of course, I always want to end by telling you this: show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't show up for your life, if you don't show up for your dreams and your goals, if you don't make the decision to expand your life, then guess what? Nobody else will. Nobody else is going to step in and go after your goals and your dreams. Nobody else is going to step in and say, hey, let me do this thing called life for you. Let me go ahead and realize your goals and your dreams. No, no, no. There's a responsibility on you to show up. There's a responsibility on you to do the work. There's a responsibility on you to begin to lean in, as Sheryl Sandberg would say, and do the things that are required so that you can make sure that this is a very expansive and a year of expansion for you. And of course, like always, if you haven't already done so, I'm going to repeat this again. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you get a copy of my book. It is called Show Up for Your Life, 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. And so you can get a copy of the book by simply going to barnesandnobles.com, or you can go to amazon.com. 2 very quick ways to order the book online. Or if you rather, you can actually go to showupforyourlifebook.com. Once again, that is showupforyourlifebook.com. But very simple. The title of the book is Show Up for Your Life. If you're doing a quick search, you're looking for it. 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. And I know that this book is going to equip you and provide you with some key principles that if you implement those principles, it's going to position you to go from living an ordinary life to positioning you to living an extraordinary life, leaving behind mediocrity and doing that thing that you've been called to do, living out your purpose and making tremendous things happen. Also, I want to invite those of you, if you haven't already done so, you can join our private Facebook group. And I want to tell you how you can do that. A couple key things that you can do. If you're already logged into Facebook, all you have to do is type in Show Up for Your Life, Show Up for Your Life. And when you do that, you are going to see a private Facebook group. And all you have to do is just simply make a request to join the group, and we will be more than happy to go ahead and accept you into the group. We have about 966 members in the group, and we're looking forward to you being another one of the members in our group, to you joining the Show Up for Your Life family. And so once again, you can get there by simply, if you're in Facebook, go to Show Up for Your Life. You'll see the private group. Or if you want a shortcut to get there, open up a separate web browser and type in showupgroup.com. Once again, you're going to type in showupgroup.com, and that's going to give you a shortcut. It's going to take you directly to our Facebook group. And just once again, just give us a request to join the group, and we'll be more than happy, trust me, more than happy to have you become part of the Show Up for Your Life family. And that way we can actually see who you are, and you'll be able to connect with some of the other people who are part of the Show Up for Your Life family. And so, of course, like always, I want to thank all of you for being part of the Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. Now, this is the time. I know those of you who are listening in via the live stream, unfortunately, we can't do a little Q&A through the live stream, but you are able to sort of eavesdrop and listen to a couple of questions and comments for the people who are listening in via the conference call line. And in order for me to make that possible, what I do is I'm going to put my phone right now on speakerphone, and Lewis is going to unmute the line for those people who are listening in right now via the